Hey y'all. Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Yes, happy Thursday. Feliz quinta-feira. Let's see. Oh, hey. See, Harlem Minded was first in the chat. Buenas, friends. Hello. And LaRonda's in the house. Hopefully you can see and hear us because, I'm not alone today, as y'all can tell. We've been pre-gaming.
Mm-hmm.
We've been pre-gaming while we're here. Hey, Opal. Hey, Michelle. How y'all doing? Hey, yeah, okay. Thank you for confirming. I appreciate that. So yeah, it's been busy here in Lisbon, Portugal. Life is good, as y'all probably can tell. I've been busy out in these international streets. For some of you who have been paying attention to some of the posts, I had another feature this week in Slate, France. Yay, thank you. Talking about, Americans trying to get up out of there. So I'm going to share it with y'all in the chat. It's in French, but depending on what browser you use, you can easily translate it. Hey. Okay, some of y'all more filing in. We've got Cheryl, another channel members in the house. Thank you, Cheryl. Good to see you. Hey. All right. Hey, Jess, I got your note today. Thank you for that. Hey, travel is my passion. Oh, thank you. I'm doing well. Yes, it's good. The weather has been great.
Finally.
Oof. Couple of days this week, it was pretty breezy. And then now we're pretty warm again. Hey, Action BJ. Victor is in Portugal now.
Oh, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Marcus. I have been doing it. And I'm about to leave again. And what did I do today? I booked another trip because I stayed. I stays going.
And somehow I signed up for dog sitting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you signed up and didn't even know
I
what
didn't
month.
even know when I was going to be dog sitting. I thought I was dog sitting in November. Apparently, I'm dog sitting in September.
I was like,
It's all good.
Where's September? No worries. I know autocorrect massacres my name every time. It's all good. Yes, just as boy noise. Yes. Hey, yeah, show Emily some love. Hey, Catrice. So Catrice and I were housemates in Vietnam.
Ooh.
Yes. And so thank you for tuning in, Catrice. So yeah, so it's good to see y'all. Like I said, I shared the Slate article. And then before that was TRT Worldwide. So some of you have seen the roundtable. Just sent a video, a screenshot that I'm on TV. Yes. So that was a wonderful interview and it's doing its thing. Hey, Jackie. Hey, Kimmy. Hey, Daphne. Y'all in the house. I appreciate it. So, still working on sounding a little less nasally. I'm pretty hopeful that by the beginning of next week, maybe middle of next week, I'll be able to do the final episode for season 7 of the Black Global podcast. Oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't do my proper introduction. Hey, I'm Krishan. So I'm the founder of Black Global and the host of the Black Global podcast. If you are a Black person looking to move abroad, I'm your girl. And I'm so delighted tonight because I get to have my friend Amylee Silva here. So Emily and I, we have these regular hangouts and Emily was spending the night, and I was like, "Oh well, then you're gonna be on YouTube then."
I was like, "All right, if that's the cost of entry tonight, here we are."
Exactly. So it's oh, thank you, Patricia. I appreciate that. It is yeah, I'm gonna get to France and Italy probably in this conversation. But yeah, so when some of you know Emily, so some people have met her through Nomad Noir. Let's see, others Where else? Oh, yeah, I think mostly through Nomad Noir, I think people have met you. And then other of my friends would have been my birthday.
Yes.
Yes.
Epic party.
Epic. But we are also celebrating Black to Global is 5 finally this month. Black to Global officially turned 5 in June. So yay.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Right? My actual birthday, as well as Black to Global's, is this month. So, as part of the festivities, Black to Global is having a yacht party. So, for those of you who felt like, hey, I didn't get an invitation to your 50th birthday, guess what? You have a chance to celebrate Black to Global turning 5. So, October 23rd, we are setting sail on the Rio Tejo in Lisboa. We're going to have a wine tasting, some light bites, great music, a little, friendship thing going on. The next day, on October 24th, is the Exodus Summit Meetup. That is officially sold out. So unless somebody cancels and then needs to transfer their ticket, that's the only way you're going to get a spot. Because when I put these events out, you got a small window, right? So in terms of the yacht party, the window is still open. So if you are interested in coming to Portugal in October, you're planning to scout, you want to just visit, this is your chance. Hey, our Black Utopia is in the house. Hey. So tonight's topic, like I said, Amylee is here. We're going to talk about how we met. And we're going to talk about the importance of making local friends, because that is one of the cheat codes that I think helps people in their move abroad, right? It's been a game changer for me, right? I've been in Portugal now, I guess 21 months now. I think, not 2 years. September makes 2 years. I think we're at month 21. But then Amylee and I, we were talking before we went live. We have been friends. We became acquainted 5 years ago. So longer than my move to Portugal. So I guess,
That's kind of how we solidified the friendship as well, too.
Yeah.
Because you were considering your move abroad. It was already part of your wheelhouse, your plan. You had a short list of countries. We were part of that cohort together. And I remember you were listing off these countries, and all of a sudden you dropped Portugal.
Yeah.
You name dropped Portugal. I was like, I live there. I already lived there.
What a coincidence.
But I wasn't there at the time we had the conversation.
No.
I was in Canada at the time. And I was like, wait.
And I was in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So we met during COVID. And it was 2020. I don't even know when we started that course. We were so I'll set the table a little bit. So it was during COVID. And like many people during COVID, we decided, hey, let's learn something. So we took a course on how to create courses.
Yes.
Right. And in that course, there were about 2,000 people.
Yep.
It was huge.
Yep.
And then that was, I believe, the first year they decided to break people into these smaller cohorts.
Yeah. Accountability groups.
Yes. So that was our first year. And then we were in the travel space. And then you want to talk a bit about your business and skill set?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So at that time, I'm an SEO strategist and specialist. So I was creating a course about SEO and how small businesses can optimize their presence online or their websites. And so that's what I was bringing to the table at the time. I was trying to create. And we were part of the accountability group. I have a strong background in travel, so that's how I ended up in the travel group as well. So I had 17 years of travel experience as an agent, and then as a manager of a custom tour department, creating custom itineraries for all around the world, working for a major tour operator. And so we all kind of came together and we had this random conversation during one of the accountability groups. And you said this Black Sick logo was what you were starting,
Yes.
and it was obviously in its early infancies because
Very
it turns
early.
5. We've known each other for 5 years, so some easy math there.
Yeah. I was like, I got this idea for this thing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And then we just you name drop Portugal, and I was like, I already live there, and you're like, well, I'm gonna go scout, and I was like, I'll be your tour guide. I'm like, come here, I'll show you around. And you took me up on your offer.
Yeah, 2 years later.
Yeah, you did. Fair enough. I did wait. I waited it out a little bit.
Yeah.
But then you came, and then we had, and then I showed you around Nazaré. So Nazaré or Nazaré, Portugal is where I am. And you
on the Silver Coast.
On the Silver Coast of Portugal. A lot of people will know the town for the big waves and the HBO series, The 100-Foot Wave. That's where I live. And I've lived there for the last 8 years. So I moved over a little bit earlier than you. And then you intended to only scout Lisbon. But then I was like, you need to come up here. Let me show you my area just in case. Nazaré. Exactly. And
you spent the whole day with me.
Oh, I did. I took you everywhere.
Yeah.
And we had that very good, very good lunch.
Yes.
At that view overlooking the entire beach.
And then we went to, I remember we went to that church.
Yeah.
And then it was like next to, not a bar, but it was kind of like a little watering hole because I remember we got beer. And then we were like, oh, we can't bring the beer to the church.
We don't recommend that.
No. So we're like,
Portugal's pretty liberal on the public drinking laws, but maybe not inside
before we go into church.
Yeah.
And we took the funicular. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then, so that was, okay, so Amylee and I met online in 2020.
Yeah.
Then I took my first scouting trip to Portugal in 2022, in April of 2022. Yeah. And it was maybe the day before I left, or 2 days before I left, is that the day we spent together. And then for the next year, because remember I moved here in September of 2023, the next year, I like to say I drove you crazy.
She wasn't a bother at all.
I'm like, Amylee, I'm moving to Nazaré.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah,
Amylee,
this part. Yeah.
I'm moving to Lisbon. Amylee, nah, I changed my mind. I'm moving to Nazaré.
She ended up in Lisbon. Spoiler alert.
For a year. Back and forth, right? Like entertaining my foolishness. But I have to say, like, one, I'm grateful that you entertained my foolishness. But two, it's like helping me make a softer landing, because there were just certain things that coming over here green that, you're drinking out of a fire hose, right? Like all the things are coming at you. Yeah. And then the language, the cultural differences and things like that. And so I definitely appreciate like you putting me at ease about a lot of the things. So what I mentioned in the intro to this is that, your family is Portuguese.
Yes.
And you grew up in Canada.
Yes.
You want to share some more about that?
Yeah, we have, there's actually a large community of individuals like myself where we're first generation. Our parents immigrated either to the US or to Canada. In my scenario, it was Canada, Toronto, Canada. And so uniquely enough, like I wasn't Canadian enough sometimes in Canada because I ate fish and I had tuna fish sandwiches for lunch when I went to school, and I spoke a different language at home. And then when I came to Portugal, then I wasn't like sometimes Portuguese enough because I have an accent when I speak, and I grew up in Canada and I have different thoughts and so forth. But I've always loved this country. I've always loved the pace of life. And my heritage and the culture and the benefits. And, I've done the rat race. I've done the rat race in a few countries, Canada, England, Australia, and the pull was always to come back here. My mom always said, she's like, you've been threatening to move back to Portugal since you were 24. I'm not gonna, well, whatever. It was 20 years ago. I was like, am I going to give it away? It doesn't matter. And then I made the move here 8 years ago, and it was such an instantaneous decision because I got pregnant, and I just thought, I was like, okay, where do I want to raise my daughter?
Now that's interesting, because so many people, when they think, especially from the US, and they think like, oh, I want to leave America. I want to, I at some point did when my son was little. You're like, oh, my neighbor to the north. I want to go to Canada.
Yeah.
Right. But then you grew up in Canada, and you're like, hey, I'm pregnant. I'm out of here. Right? Yeah. So it's very interesting as somebody who, like, again, had thought about that for her own path, for you to take a different path. Do you think it was largely because you had so many fond memories of life here, or like, what was it?
Definitely fond memories came into play. I spent a lot of summers here. The first time I ever flew to Portugal by myself, I was 4 years old.
Wow.
And I had my 5th birthday here, and I was here for 3 months.
Wow.
To the point that, and because I was at such a young and impressionable age, I went back to Canada and I had forgotten how to speak English.
Wow.
So I came here not knowing enough Portuguese, and then kind of like suffering through it. And then my brain switched. It went all into Portuguese, and then I went back to Canada and had forgotten my English. I went to school, like I went straight to school kind of deal. And I came home crying that day because none of the kids were talking to me, because I was talking to them in Portuguese, and I didn't realize. And I was like, what's going on here? And so it was really interesting kind of growing up with the two cultures. The main thing was, I lived in a suburb outside of Toronto, and I was spending 3 hours of my life in a car.
Wow.
Commuting to go into Toronto at the time. Properties were skyrocketing, like the real estate was skyrocketing. We're talking now, condominiums in Toronto went up to $1 million. We're talking, I call them little glass boxes in the sky. And I was a mom. I was about to have a baby, and I'm like, okay, so what kind of salary do I need to raise a child here? The province that I lived in is Ontario. It had the highest monthly rate for childcare. So we were talking about $1,300 a month for childcare. And I just started quickly doing the numbers, and I don't know, for me, I thought, you know what, I'd rather take the risk of, I knew the salaries here were quite low in comparison. I said, but I think I'd rather compromise on the salary and have a better lifestyle. Like safety wasn't a concern, but as crazy as it sounds, like Portugal's even safer than Canada is, right? So I already lived in a pretty safe country, but moving here made it.
I did not.
Also, yeah.
Your neighbor to the south was not.
No, not. I'm appreciative of that imaginary border.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and then so moving here was even safer, and it was really the main decision is quality of life. Yeah. I remember the first time Sophia went back to Canada, and because the first couple of times she went, she moved here when she was 5-6 months. She started to crawl here, first teeth, everything happened here. So the first time we go back to Canada, and I'm driving it, and now she's like more aware of traffic and cars, and she starts losing her mind because of traffic. She's like, why are you stopped again? And then I was like, what is happening? There's this like little voice from the back seat. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, why are you stopped? Why? And I was like, because I'm at a traffic light. Yeah. And then I realized the closest traffic light to the town of Nazaré is 22 minutes away. My daughter's never seen a traffic light. Like, and stop signs are really suggestions here, especially in the town that I'm in. Like, suggestions, stop signs are like yield signs.
Rolling stop.
You just kind of like, everything is kind of like a roundabout. You just kind of look, and then you just keep going. So imagine we're in like Mississauga, close to Toronto. We're talking a million people, and every 2 seconds I'm like at a stop sign and at a stoplight, and then I'm waiting for the advance screens, and she's just losing it. She's like, why can't you go? Why aren't all these cars going? I was like, oh, honey. It's like, there's a lot more of this that you're going to need to experience in your life. And then I took stock of it, and I was like, where is the closest street light? I was like, she's never seen a red light. And now she's very much aware of it. So it's that quality of life that it is that nice flow. And, you know, I pick her up and it's after school and we go to the beach.
Yeah.
After school.
So you talked a little bit about Nezare, the 100-foot waves. It's an old fisherman's town.
Yep.
Right. It's on the Atlantic.
It is.
And then you have all of these. It's beautiful. So definitely I recommend that you go on to your Googles, check out the 100-foot wave on HBO. It's like third season.
Third season now. Yeah.
If you get a chance to go to Nezare, go to the lighthouse, which we did that time.
Yes, we did.
I took my brother to Nezare when he was here a few months ago. And then at one point when you're on the beach, you can see like all the other towns, or quite a few of the towns.
Yeah.
Like Caldish, not Peniche.
You can see Peniche on a clear day. We can't see Caldish, but we can see Peniche. We can see Foz do Areio. We can see São Martinho do Porto, or the beginning of the port of it. Yeah, we can see the Berlinga Islands, which are.
I want to go there.
Yeah.
I just found out about
an archipelago just off the coast of Peniche. It's quite spectacular. It's one of the longest stretches of beaches as well that we have. It's the second largest. There's one that's a little bit longer. So I think it's 2 kilometers. So that's over a mile, like 1.1 miles or something.
I appreciate the conversion.
Yes. Yeah. I do my best on that. Just asked me how old my daughter is. So she's 7 now. She was 5-6 months when we came over here, and I don't know if she'll go to college or university here. It's up to her. She's bilingual, so she has the opportunity to go back to Canada. She can go to England. She can study abroad, and by all means, she can stay in Portugal. But she's torturing my heart by saying that she loves Canada more than Portugal.
Really? Does she? I mean, at this age, you know, her reasons why are probably like, you know.
You know what I realized is, one of the reasons why I fell in love with Portugal so much was, and I tell my parents all the time, I'm like, they caused this issue of me traveling and wanting to leave, was they kept shipping me here for the summers because it was cheaper for me to spend the summer here with family than it was to put me in camps or daycares and stuff back home. And as I mentioned today, you discovered that my sister and I are 11 years apart. So my sister was off to work and I was still young and my parents were working. So from an investment perspective, we're like, well, she's got a ton of cousins. Her grandma was still alive at the time. We'll send her over to Portugal. We buy her tickets. They feed her and she's good. And then she could come back when school starts. And so my experience of Portugal was kind of always in a holiday mode, right? And I was being fawned over because I didn't really get to spend this time with my family. It was every couple of years. So every two years, kind of almost like clockwork. I was sent over ever since the age of 1. And now she's having the opposite. Because when I take her to Canada, it's like holidays and we see family because they don't see her. So she's getting presents and we're going out for dinners and lunch and people are coming over. So I was like, oh, okay, I can see how this is happening.
Yeah. It's like, very interesting though.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. What has been like I don't know, maybe your biggest adjustment now that you've been back 8 years?
Biggest adjustment on this side or that side?
Either. Yeah.
So my biggest adjustment here, and I was a little bit ignorant coming over because I do speak the language. I do have a funny accent every once in a while. I err on the grammar side of things because I actually never went to school, so I never had any formal training. My Portuguese is from hearing and experience and memory. So one of the biggest challenges coming on this side was I ignorantly thought that because I spoke enough and I was proficient enough that it would be easier in some regards. And bureaucracy is usually something that comes up when moving to Portugal. Love their paperwork.
You don't say.
Love their paperwork.
A couple of the people in the chat probably been waiting for appointments at AMA or resident renewals or all of the above.
Yeah. So I kind of was like, well, I've got a leg up. I'm not going to have these issues.
Nah.
No. It's just, it happens to everybody, regardless. And even people who live here who are Portuguese. So I wasn't really expecting that aspect. going back on the other side, and we've had conversations about this, is how much I reject the country now and the style of lifestyle and the quality of food and the everything that I don't know. It's like I've had an awakening. I know better now.
Yeah.
And it's not, politics and all of that stuff aside, and I have a lot of family still there. It's just it's not home anymore. And I remember I used to travel a lot for work. I was a travel agent. I worked for a tour operator. So as I said, I've been very lucky in my life, and I've traveled a lot. And I always liked coming home and seeing the CN Tower and the skate, coming down into Pearson Airport and be like, I'm home. And I remember the first time when I went to that side, I was like, this landscape, this cityscape doesn't do it for me anymore. This isn't home. And I remember it. And now kind of traveling back there every time, I'm just kind of like, why am I leaving?
Yeah.
And I know there's people on the other side that are worth visiting, but at one point I'm going to clip my wings. That is for sure.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had this conversation earlier because that's how I feel. Like I have my children, of course, and my mom and my brothers. But I feel less of a pull to the States. It's a place that has people I love, but it's not home.
Yeah.
And I can't say in my, I left, technically I was, was I 49 by the time I left? Yeah. In all those years, it didn't feel like home, and it was reinforced once I started traveling, once I started having experiences in other countries where people were interacting with me as a person and having, this level of embracing my humanity and, authenticity and just genuine kindness, that I was like, oh, wow, like I've lived my whole life here, right? I am from this land, and I never felt like I was part of it. And when I was a kid growing up in the Bronx, and I've said this on this channel many times, I've always wanted to live abroad. I don't even know where it came from. It was part of me that knew that the US wasn't it. And then when I got to a place where I started to travel and was like, oh no, like once I don't have, minor children, I'm out, right? And that's why, like in last week's video, I spent a lot of time talking about people who had a longer runway, like the 3 to 5 year plan, because for me, I made that decision in 2017 and I didn't move to 2023. And so it was a long time to keep that flame lit, to keep myself motivated, to not get distracted by things that were outside of my control, the macro issues, to focus on my micro goals that enabled me to get here. And I have to say, like now being on the other side and having this richness of life, this richness of relationships, I was very insular at that point in my life. And, and that's why I always find our friendship to be interesting is like, I was in New Jersey, you were in Canada. Now we're both sitting in Portugal 5 years later.
I love it. And I took the
next to one another.
And I took the bus down here. It cost me €7.
Yes.
I was doing work.
Yeah. Exactly. So Ty asked, does any of your family feel compelled to move to Portugal? Do they seem comfortable back in Canada?
I definitely have a split. There's a lot more who feel a pull to come to Portugal now. But I think they're just more scared financially. They're in their careers at the moment. Some people are getting closer to when retirement packages might start kicking in. So kind of strategically leaving at this stage might jeopardize maybe some of that cushion for them. But a lot of my friends and family, so I have also a lot of friends who are first generation Canadians because their parents immigrated over, buying properties here and already taking the steps and making the plans that like once they're able to retire, they will retire back here in Portugal, and they're setting themselves up now. Yeah.
In your previous role, like you migrated into helping people find housing and transition here and scouting.
I did.
So maybe two questions, so we'll take it, is what are some of the things that you think expats miss out on when they stay in the expat bubble?
Yeah.
And then second to that is in terms of looking for a place, figuring out where they want to live in this beautiful country, like what's the best path forward? Because there's a lot of information that's out on the internet, but most of the time people bring their, how things work in their home country and think they're going to apply it. So we'll take it in two parts. But
yeah. So sorry, the first question.
Expat bubble.
From the expat bubble, I think you risk really discovering the country and events, cultural events, and support. Like, we were, the question is like, how do you make friends here? And kind of the importance of it is it's at one point, you're going to need a service.
Yes.
Right. And now this can be hair, nails, plumbers, gardeners, like anything. You're going to need a service, and finding that person to help you is going to be difficult because naturally, and this is a weird thing because this comes into what I do for a living, which is SEO optimization, is you're going to naturally start searching in English, and you're not going to get a lot of results that way.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that way. Because that is true.
Right? You start searching for a plumber. Yeah. Only somebody who...
That is so true.
Who knows SEO.
And we'll put it in...
would translate something into plumbing, right? Yeah. So it can be sometimes that stuff is something that's simple, like trying to find a service.
Yeah.
And it's really... Portuguese people are... we're very supportive of our communities, and we like to help. We really do. Of a lot of the European countries that are around, we're very open and we're very family orientated, which also can be the challenge of making friends with Portuguese people, because it is very traditional here that like families get together on Sundays.
Yes.
Like you visit your grandparents, all your aunts and uncles, all of your cousins, you all get together every Sunday. It's like without fail. So there are a lot of family events that like that kind of part you're not maybe necessarily going to break into very easily, but there is an opportunity as well. I know we had a large influx of Ukrainians come into Portugal at the beginning of the war. And I befriended a single woman that came here by herself, and she was renting a house, and she literally called the owner grandma. This was everybody's grandma. And grandma, she's like, you're not having Christmas by yourself. You are coming with me and my daughters and my and you're coming and you're having Christmas dinner with us. And she's like, no. She's like, no. She's like, you stop saying no. She's like almost grabbing her by the ear.
You're coming with me.
She's like, you're grabbing her by the ear. No, vem comigo. Let's go. You're coming. You're going to sit here at family dinner. So you kind of miss out on that part. And it's also a culture thing. I always warn anybody who has kids or grandchildren is like a Portuguese woman, a Portuguese grandma at one point is going to touch your child. You're going to be at a park and and somebody's just going to be all over this child and touching. And you're going to have one of these moments where your North Americanism kicks in and you're like, why are you touching my baby? And you're like, well, there's like no immediate danger, but from a cultural perspective, and for them, this is normal.
Yeah.
That whole, it takes a village is ingrained into the culture. So that's kind of what you risk from the expat bubble. I feel like expat communities are really important. Nozida actually has a really strong expat community Facebook group. So does Stubal. So I see that sometimes, we're hybrids. We call ourselves hybrids. These us Portuguese Canadians, some of my friends. Sometimes we do rely on each other because sometimes our brains actually turn off from the Portuguese aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And we default. We just want to default into English. It's our core. We're tired. Our brains are just like, I can't do the two languages anymore. I need to speak English. So there's a comfort level there too, but you also miss out on some of these funny stories and connections with the grandmas. And it's the grandmas. Honestly, the grandmas in these bairros, or the grandfathers, the people walking the avós. Like the other day, I literally saw this woman like cleaning and washing and sweeping the street in front of her house. Like, she's like clean it, and I was like, this is what you kind of miss if you maybe stick in the expat bubble. Now, as you mentioned, I had a side gig that I was helping individuals scout for houses here or find the areas that they wanted to live in. One thing that's a big concern is mold and the quality of the houses, and wanting certain construction from the houses that just don't exist here. So if you have heating, count yourself lucky. Our houses are meant to be cold. It gets hot here. Our concern is not heating the house for the 2 months that it's kind of unbearable here. Our concern is keeping the houses cold for the summer, right? I'm lucky Nazaré is usually 5 to 10 degrees colder than everywhere else. So that's really, and then humidity is another part. But in the interior, like you're talking Évora, even Lisboa, like I've left Nazaré and I don't know how to convert this time, like 20 degrees. And then I get here, it's 30.
Oh, wow. Like that's significant.
It's hot. And then you go into the interior, like towards Évora, and it's 42 or 45. And you're just like, did I go to a new country? So their air conditioning is that. The other construction is a lot of the groups are always like the ratings of the house.
Yes.
For efficiency on the energy levels. And take that with a grain of salt. Like C's are normal. D is, okay, maybe you want to figure out what's going on. But as long as you got double pane windows,
you'll be all right.
You're usually better off in general. And then where to live, like honestly, it comes down to budget and then actually weather. Like we are a tiny little sliver of a country, but the difference, as I just mentioned, between Lisbon and Nazaré and then Porto towards the north, where it does rain more. And I essentially say Porto is San Francisco and Lisbon is Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. I put Porto more like Seattle.
Similar.
Yeah.
That kind of foggy rain, kind of a little bit more. My limit of Portugal is essentially where I am.
Yeah.
Lady, I was like, anything north, I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen.
No offense to those of y'all.
Porto is beautiful.
It's beautiful. It is very beautiful.
What a great city. What a great city to visit.
It's just a little gray for me.
Yes. A great city to visit. Like I just said, great city to visit for me. I love it. But living there would be a bit challenging for me. I've done my Vancouver, Seattle years, and
I need palm trees. I need a lot of things. Gray.
I need and want.
Yes, I need and want.
And deserve.
And deserve.
Yeah.
So the language.
North Americanism.
Yes. The language. So I've been taking classes. What do you think about that? Like for people that prepare or want to move here?
It is a challenging language to learn to physically, like verbally speak. When you look at it, it's Latin based. It's very similar to Spanish and Italian and all of that. But when the words start coming out of our mouth, we sound Russian. We sound Ukrainian. We have a different pronunciation.
Yes.
On the flip side, Portuguese people are one of the only so I don't know if this has changed recently, but up until a while ago, Portugal was the only country in Europe that didn't dub over movies.
Oh, yeah.
So all of the movies here and any kind of like cultural entertainment that was coming from North America would still be in English and then captions in Portuguese below.
Yeah, I just saw Sinners and it was it wasn't dubbed.
Yep. And then so but in France and Germany and Spain, they use famous
Oh.
German, French, and Spanish actors to voice over the American or Canadian actors. And so everything is in their native language. I remember once we went to Disney Paris last year, and it was Back to the Future, and they were speaking French, and then the subtitles were in French, and I was like, why is this like double French? I'm like, I was like, I don't understand anything. They're speaking in French and the captions are in French. I'm like, why don't I have captions in English so I can try to, and then I realized, obviously it's not made for me to watch in France. Rude.
Thank you for your money.
But that was something, even when I was here younger in Portugal, when I come for the summers, it wasn't so traumatic because I could hear English. So the Portuguese here are very shy in speaking English. They might feel a little bit nervous or embarrassed, but they actually have really good English.
They do,
and they actually understand a lot more than they sometimes put on. And it's because of this. and it's because of this cultural aspect of the entertainment that was brought here. We don't dub it over. We don't take Portuguese actors, and they only do that for Disney movies because it makes sense because the children don't know how to read. So in English. But stick with it. Like I've seen people try to speak Portuguese and a local Portuguese, and I've seen the interaction and it's so endearing. I usually get looped in to translate at some point, but sometimes I just don't even say anything. I'm just like, no, I don't feel like translating today. I was like, you guys need to try this out.
Yeah. I still have trouble with the R's.
Yeah, the arroz.
Yeah, it's gonna be a minute.
In Canada, we have Tim Hortons, one of like our Dunkin' Donuts, right? And we have this campaign that's like roll up the rim to win. And then I was like, okay, you can practice that. But yeah,
but I can drill my R's in Spanish. That's easy. But the Portuguese R's,
it's more like
throaty.
Yeah, it's more like the Moorish kind of Arabic.
Yeah, it's almost like not as guttural as like Dutch, because when I was in Amsterdam, Jesus, I'm like, what the, no offense to the Dutch people, but
no,
that's a little rough on the throat.
I was telling you about that trip that I did where I did 8 countries in 14 days earlier today. And it was funny. The first couple countries were like France and Italy and the group that I was traveling within on this kind of organized tour group. I was like the translator for the first like 5 days because we were in Latin-based countries, so I could like kind of get around. And then we went into Germany and then eventually into Holland, and I was like, I'm out,
tapping out,
and I was like,
tap out.
The sounds that are coming out from here, I'm like, I don't know them anymore. I'm like, my ear just doesn't grab them anymore. No. But luckily we had a South African in our little group of girls that was traveling, so her Afrikaans kicked in, and she started helping and taking over, because once we got out of Italy, I was like, I'm done.
It's interesting though, now that I've been learning Portuguese, I've lived here, it is easier though when I'm in other countries. Like I was in France last week, and hearing French or being exposed to Spanish, which I had learned in school, and even being exposed to Italian, like there's certain words that they may sound the same, they may be spelled differently, or part of the word is similar and you can make inferences from there. So it is very interesting. It makes it easier, which is why I guess how I can understand how people migrate from some of the other countries, back and forth amongst themselves. So that's been interesting.
I think one of my top tips for people wanting to learn Portuguese, and obviously it's a lot easier here on this side, is to watch the soap operas.
Oh, the telenovelas.
Because the actors on the soap operas, on the telenovelas, usually have a very general accent. They're not necessarily from the north or from the interior or from the islands. Their accent is very neutral. So it's easier to pick up, and then on top of that, you can throw on the captions, and then you kind of read and start relating to it. But a lot of people learn languages through the television, through the programs that they watch, and then you can practice your reading if you have an English-speaking show, and then you're trying to read below, or do vice versa, put it into Portuguese, and then read the English below to hear the commonality of the words. So it is a challenging language, but it's
Mhm.
so worthwhile even picking up just a few words here and there, and it makes the world of a difference. So,
Yeah, I was watching, and it's so funny that you mention that because I do need to start watching it again. It was, I don't even think they make it anymore. It's on YouTube though. It's Amor y Mayor, and it's on YouTube. It's this Portuguese telenovela. Man, that thing had me hooked after the first episode. Of course, it starts as she's in a festa.
Yeah.
You know, she stands on top of this car and then gets knocked down, and this handsome Portuguese guy grabs her, like catches her, of course, right? It's like, oh, right. And it just takes off with this whole other story. And of course, it's like murder and intrigue and all that stuff. And the exaggerated expressions that, you come to know in any telenovela, regardless of the language. And so it's definitely, if y'all are looking for something to watch, it's free. It's on YouTube. Amor y Mayor.
Yeah, I love it. Kimmy says she's been watching Portuguese kids cartoons, and even that's wrong.
Man, I got tripped up. Did I tell you about the Festina?
No.
Oh, so this was funny. I got tripped up by a 7-year-old a couple weeks ago. It was probably like 2 months ago. So I was walking out with Bailey and out of the building, and I remember I was coming in the building, but it was an older lady and she had these 2 kids with her. And I hadn't seen them before. And so, obrigada, okay. And she's still holding the door. And of course, now Bailey's fascinated by these kids. So she doesn't want to come to the building. So she's like looking at them. And then the boy said, menina, menina. Oh, okay. So I'm like, okay, you're asking me questions that I can answer, right? Is she a girl?
Yeah.
All right. What's her name? Bailey. Okay, good. Right. Then he says, Festina. And I'm like, Festina.
Yeah.
So in my head, I'm like,
Festina.
I'm like, I don't know what that word is. So now I'm like trying to think, wait, Festina, Festa. I'm like,
party?
Well, I'm thinking, is he asking, is she a party girl? Is
Bailey the dog?
Right? Is this the dog that's the party girl, right? Because I'm thinking it's the diminutive. So I'm like, Festina, he's asking, is she a little party girl? Right? So then I'm like, now, and then the grandmother now, right, is like, and I'm like, I'm like, Festina. And she's like, Festina to me. And I'm like,
cuddles.
And I'm like, now I was like, oh, desculpa, eu falo um pouco português. She's like, oh, nah, Festina. So I go in the house, I'm like, damn, what is that? So then I get Google Translate and I put it in, and it says party. So I'm like, that's what I thought. So now I've confirmed he's asking about a party, right? So the next day I go, right? I go for my laser treatment, and I'm telling the woman, and and I'm like, I tell the woman like what happened. She's like, oh, I can see how you got tripped up. She's like, we're Portuguese. We don't do little parties. She's like, he was asking, could he pet the dog?
Yeah,
and I was like,
cuddle the dog, pet the dog. Yeah.
So now, like today, when I was Bailey and they were like, Christine, I was like, ha, you didn't get me today.
I will say yes.
I was like, and I got my Portuguese friend. He tripping me up today, boy.
I love that.
Oh,
like,
man.
asking me if the dog is a party dog.
I'm like, party, right? But then I had to take some stuff to the tailor yesterday. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to go. It's where I live. Although today we ran into a few English speakers.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that I don't know. I can't say it's because of you, but it's not my everyday. And so I went to the tailor, and I'm like, okay. And I looked up the word costura, and then I asked. I couldn't find it in the store in the centro. Then I went and asked for help in the little office, and I asked everything in Portuguese. He told me where it was in Portuguese. So I was like, okay, I'm doing good, rocking. Go upstairs. Find it. How can I help you? Now I'm like, oh, that was the part that I didn't rehearse. Because now I got to explain to you, like, this is, it needs to be resewn here, and then I need this resewn, I need this short, and then I was like, oh, and so I tried, and the older Portuguese woman was like, thankfully it was, I guess, her assistant or friend in there. She was like, she had to tap her in. I was like, thanks, girl, I couldn't do it. I could not do it, but that's part. I don't take myself seriously.
Yeah, you got to keep trying. Yeah. The biggest thing people will trip up on is the fact that an O is a U sound here.
Yes.
And an E makes an I sound, and an I makes an E sound. So and the U makes an O sound. So those are the biggest letters that we trip up on, because then you're looking at the word in your brain and you see an O, and naturally you're like, oh, but it's oo. Like oeiras, that starts with an O. And so most people would say oeiras,
which is what I say,
but it's oeiras.
Interesting. Even at the top of the word.
And Rocio square, the big string, is Rocio. Yeah. So
I do say oeiras.
And then it's like now, like physically in my brain or visually in my brain, I'm like, nope, that's not an O, Emily. It's a U.
Yeah. like, or add an extra O, which we would say in two in English. But yeah, I gotta try that trick, because I do say oeiras.
Yeah.
So my pronunciation is like, I don't know.
Because you're seeing the O, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
In your head, and it's not that far off. The pronunciation's not that far off. But Sophia and I always have this, like, when I'm trying to help her with her homework, and it's funny, I had the exact same arguments with my mom. I was like, is it the I with the dot on top of it, or is it the E, like a normal E? And we're always trying to.
The O with the hat.
I was like, which one is it? It was like my mom used to call it the I with the pontinha, with the little point on top of it. I'm like, okay, so the I, the E with the. Anyways, and now I'm even confusing myself.
And the O with the little hat. The O with the little hat.
And then the C with the accent below is an S sound. I asked
Portuguese. You taught me that.
Yeah, and then I asked the Portuguese ones. I was like, well, why wouldn't you just write an S?
Yeah.
And they're like, silence.
Oh no, that was one of the things that drove me crazy in Portuguese class, was that, and I don't want to start like a thing.
Yeah.
It's like European Portuguese or Portuguese of Portugal, which is what Portuguese say.
Yes.
And then Brazilian Portuguese is it's like Portuguese, they make the rules, but they break the rules. So she would teach us something. It's like, oh, but that's not how we say it. And I was like, but you just made the rule. And so, oh, but in Brazilian Portuguese, they adhere to the rule.
Yeah.
And I was like, so how are you going to make a language?
The Brazilians are actually more strict in Portuguese than the Portuguese are.
And that's why I was like, it was maddening when I was trying to learn the language. Because I'm like, okay, I'm trying to embrace this rule, right? Because this whole thing is foreign to me. And I'm trying to like figure out mnemonics and different things. Like, and then you're like, oh no, but we don't do it that way. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's like, but in the other language, it's exactly how the rule goes. I'm like,
welcome to Portugal.
Exactly. It's been very interesting.
Yeah.
But I did say to myself that next year, we were talking about earlier, B1, B2, I do want to go back, even though it's not required for citizenship. I want to go to the intermediate level of language learning, because this year my goal was to apply what I've learned. And then next year I want to go to the intermediate level, because I want to get a layer deeper. I want to get to a point where I don't have to switch into English. And it's kind of hard to explain. So I can understand more than I have words to respond to. I can respond to questions that I'm asked.
Okay. I
can ask basic questions, but I will not initiate a conversation because y'all don't want me to do that.
No, you do. And it's so funny because when you told me the topic of today's live, yesterday I'd come across a mini interview of like a top matchmaker, and her first recommendation was start a conversation with strangers. approach strangers, say hello, introduce yourself.
Mhm.
It's one of the easiest forms of kind of breaking down
Mhm.
that first layer and
Mhm.
kind of getting, I don't know, starting to get comfortable
Yeah.
with approaching locals as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I know it's scary, and so
Yeah.
it's not even that it's scary. You're nervous, you're embarrassed, you
Mhm.
know, like you're not sure, you know, and
Mhm.
how it's going to be received. But that's kind of, it's also kind of the fun,
Mhm.
you know. And if you're that nervous, you're just
Yeah.
have an imperial or a little shot or a glass of wine, and it's what happens. The tongue starts to flow easier when you have some wine.
Very true. It's only like my everyday, because I consider my Portuguese to be transactional. Anything that I have to buy, get a table, anything that's in my normal routine.
Yep.
Seeing my neighbors, to buying, you know, like all those, to me, still surface level conversations, I can handle.
Yeah.
Like, people stop me all the time. Like today with Bailey, all the time.
Yeah.
And they ask me the questions, you know, like these two older ladies when I was walking her, when you were coming here. And these two older women were sitting there on the bench. I was on the phone with my mom, and you know they were asking me questions. They didn't realize I was on the phone. And I'm like, oh no, not fresh, mom. We're talking, and then they said, you know, Ella Moida, and I said,
will she bite? Yeah.
Yeah, and I said now because I knew what that was, and I was like, look at me, right? And of course, my mother's gassing me up. She's like, you're doing so good, baby. I'm so proud of you.
So good.
It's so funny. So I'm like, I feel good in those situations.
You have to like, and one thing, like, I take that a little bit for granted because I grew up with another language already in my house. I don't have to think about it. I always heard other things going on. So you should feel good about yourself. You should be proud because learning another language is challenging. The grammars, present, feminine, masculine, things that just don't even exist in English.
My life exists in the present. Don't ask me about yesterday,
right?
Which I forgot the word for yesterday, and then I had to think about it, and then I had to look it up. One thing. And then I was like, because I'm like, I don't talk in the past. I don't.
Yeah. And then to put a masculine or a feminine version on that, you're like, what?
Heck no.
What?
No.
Why is this masculine or feminine? It's like, what are we talking about?
I live in the present.
So one of the summers that I came over here, my cousin was doing her English homework, and she's like, poof. My cousin from Canada is here. She's gonna rock it out and do my homework for me.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, no, I'm not. But I tried to help, and it was like a question. Here's a blank. Here's 5 words that can fit into this blank spot in this sentence. Only one is correct. And I was like, no. I was like, these 2 work. She's like, no, Emily, only one is the correct. I was like, not in my English. I was like, in my English, these 2 work. But she was also learning British English, which is more is stricter than North American English. And I think we got 2 questions in, and I was like, well, then I can't help you. No. And I was like, then go back to your textbooks
no help at all.
And your strictness, and I can't help you with your English homework because we're so improper and very more casual with our speech. And here there's donna and doctor and some things that part I don't really understand.
And then like tricky words,
you
like
guys will learn that.
You know, like dia is masculine.
But it has an A at the end, which normally should be feminine.
Exactly. Yeah. So like these little exceptions, these little tricks. So I'm learning, but I practice every day.
Yes. And I love it when she texts me every once in a while, like we'll be texting in English, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, Krishan has activated Portuguese mode. And I was like, yep, that's it. Okay, let's go. Let's switch over. Let's start doing this in Portuguese. I can do this.
But then it comes to bite me, like when I was in Monaco and in France, in Nice. And then I'm like, they're giving me something, and I'm like,
no, merci.
And then I'm like, boom. Yeah.
You're like, no, I just got my brain to think in Portuguese, and now my French is messing it all up.
I'm like, bon jour.
Bon jour.
Yeah.
It sounds like a new microwavable dinner.
Exactly. Bon jour. They're probably like, what is going on with her mouth? But it's been interesting. It's been interesting. Yes, Jeff, we are definitely life learners. It's great for the brain.
It is.
I have to say, learning a new language at this age, because I have my routines every day. I practice Portuguese, I do my Wordle, and now, as of late, the past few days, I've been doing spelling bee, the New York Times games. And I think part of having made this decision to move abroad, and I think at this particular age, is it's part of my brain health, right? I've put myself in a position where I have a whole lot less stress in my life. I have the capacity to relax. I have the capacity to think and be creative. And then I can feed my brain things that are beneficial, right? I can do meditative things. I can, do these word games and things like that. And you need to have stimulation, especially when you decide to retire early and you need to have mental stimulation. I don't leave my house all the time, but every day I'm doing something to continue to flex that mental muscle that, quite honestly, for me, even though I had a big career, you're saying yes or no in an email or, these short little micro messages that really aren't challenging your brain. It's really not motivating your brain to do any real work. And so, challenging your brain, learning a new language is, I think, going to add to at least my mental longevity. And Jess said fish oil. Wait.
Take some
Aubrey Mercy.
Aubrey Mercy.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I was, Maureen will tell you the stories. And interestingly enough, because let's see, they're definitely asleep by now. So I had digressed for a second. So Andrea and Jean, who were here, and they were watching Bailey while I was in Amsterdam, are away on holiday, and they ran into Miss Maureen today, and so I got a picture today of all my peeps, and I was like, oh my gosh, they did not know each other, and they have me in common, and they just happen to run into each other in Amsterdam. So I just want to give y'all a shout out because y'all have been traveling the world. One other person was on a cruise. And I don't know how the topic of Blacks to Global came up on this cruise. And they were in Italy, I think, at that point. And oh my God, I love the podcast. And oh my gosh, he knows Krishan, right? I'm like, what? On this cruise? So shout out to y'all for representing big time and making these international connections and relationships with yourselves. These conversations, the podcast, all of it is really to keep you inspired, to keep you empowered, or to empower you, right? Empower your sense of curiosity, allow you to extend yourself beyond, the life that you've lived in your home country, and for many of us, it's the United States, and to think bigger, right? Like old me, in the way I was living my life, in the way I was thinking, would not have, I don't think, been as open to make the relationships that I've made virtually that have now extended to real life, right? Once upon a time, I don't think there was a part of the way I was living my life that would have put myself out there to create Blacks at Global, that would have put myself out there to take a course, to create courses, and then meet you, right? And so all of these things, and it goes back to the episode that I had last week, is like all of these decisions, these little decisions that and choices that you make literally are creating the path in which you're walking along in your journey. And so hopefully that's what you're gleaning from these conversations. Is there anything else that we need to tell the folks about, making friends? Are there places that you think that people should go to meet up? I know we were in that one group at one point.
Like the Facebook group?
No, I was thinking about that one.
Oh, the one that was half expats, half the 1,000?
Yeah.
1,000? Yeah. I think like quick recommendations would be any type of groups that maybe I know there's a lot of fitness groups, like especially in Azadeh, there's like some running groups or some interest groups or hiking groups or biking groups or photography groups. My recommendation again, which kind of ties into what I do for a living, is whatever you want to search in English, translate it into Portuguese. And then put it into Google. So you can do your first English search, do your first English search on Google, and then translate it into Portuguese, and the results will vary.
Wow.
Very, very differently. So that can open you up to new groups, new events, cultural events that are happening in the town. Portugal loves its holidays. We have 2 this month. In the month of December, alongside Christmas, we have another 2 right at the beginning of the month. We love our holidays here. So there's lots of public holidays. So it's also good to know those because then there's usually parades or other things kind of happening.
Big festas this month.
Yes, here, especially in Lisbon, Tuesday is Portugal Day. So there's a holiday there. And then all the other ones that we don't know, the ongoing joke is just, it's a religious one. Pick a saint. It's one of them. And then towns locally have their own holidays.
Yeah, there's something in this park. When I was taking Bailey for a walk today in the Jardim Garret is mine, and they were putting some stanchions together. I was like, oh, something's going on. They didn't name it yet, so it's the town is doing something, but
and it's always cute because there's always dancing and there's always little old couples dancing. There's always bands and food and little raffles and things. They're the best. The ones when the stage
book fair is going on right now.
Yeah, book fairs are
the big book fair opened up yesterday. So for those of you who are here, are the scouting or live here now, right? And it's near Avenida Novish, that area, Marquise de Pombal, is the big book fair, and it's going on for like 2.5 weeks, something like that, close to 3 weeks. Jess wants to know, are you doing relocation?
I don't anymore at the moment, but through this wonderful lady here, I can give you some connections. I still have some connections, but I personally, I'm not scouting anymore at the moment. No, doing my single mom thing, and I'm on my road to retirement. I've got my 2-year plan started and activated. So yeah.
I love it. We'll be ladies of leisure together. I know we were already talking about like taking a trip somewhere.
I was like, just inviting myself. I invited myself to sleep over tonight. She invited me on the live, and I'm like, then I invited myself to go to Rome with her, and so we're all good. We're all comfortable about it.
It's all good. It's all good. Elizabeth said, great idea to translate English to Portuguese before doing a search. Yes, thank you.
So look for your yoga groups, your walking groups, or anything that you might be interested in here, and do, like, you can do both searches because the country Portugal has changed a lot. We've recognized that there's a lot more immigration happening and a lot more diversity in the languages that are spoken here. But the Portuguese one was a bit of a game changer for me, and I was like, how did I not include it?
Yes.
I was getting frustrated because I couldn't find answers, and I was like, oh my God, you're searching in English. I was like, of course, Google's like, what do you want in English? You're in Portugal. Why aren't you speaking to me in Portuguese? And
I'm like, I don't believe in websites. I believe in websites. And it was like, and then duh.
And then you start searching in Portuguese, you're like, oh, there it all is. There it all is.
Let's see, y'all learned something.
No worries. Yes. Yeah.
Any other parting messages? Unless you guys have any other questions, feel free to put it in the chat. But are there any other parting messages that you want to send to the good people that are on their aspiring expat and some expat journey?
Pack your bags. Just do it. It will honestly be the best decision you'll ever make. I like if you're already on that thought pattern and on that path, and you're feeling that itch and that that desire to leave, everything that is, I can assure you that anything that you're creating in your head as a block or that you're worried or scared about is way smaller and probably non-existent on this side. Like I'm not saying it's going to be perfect and it's all you're not gonna run into your own bureaucracy and really weird issues. Like weird things that just don't make sense. Sometimes you're like, how can this function so well and then this be so off? And that happens, but all countries are like that. I don't know. Like a group of my friends and I that are in New Zealand now that grew up in Canada and are now here for years. Like we have a common saying is like, you couldn't pay me to move back. Like you could not pay me to go back to that lifestyle. You couldn't. You couldn't.
Same.
What I have here and any struggle I've ever had on this side is nothing into comparison to the stress and the lack of lifestyle and quality of life that I had in that rat race on that side. And things are changing really quickly, even on, your neighbors to the north on the Canadian side, things are way different. And I'm not even going to get into pricing and food and everything like that. Like it's just, there's a different vibe there. And here I feel calm. I feel distressed.
Your nervous system gets
it's the nervous system. Like there is a different energy here, a different calm. And at first it's going to be a bit challenging because you're gonna bring that North American efficiency and wanting things at a certain rate, and then eventually, and it takes a while. Like I'm not saying it's going to take weeks or months, and it may take a couple of years. Like even on a more dramatic side, when I was scouting, and like for me, and I don't want to. I don't know if we have like to cut off things, but like I don't have this experience because in Canada we don't have the gun laws that you do in North America. I mean in the United States, but the conversations that I used to have with Americans that would jump at sounds because they were worried about gunfire. Like I didn't grow up with that kind of stress, but listening and talking to people come off of that level of high alert and coming here. And for me, it's like efficiency. I'm used to, like people work 9 to 5. They have half an hour lunches. We do things effectively. We have like 8 holidays in a year, 14. And, people are like, yeah, don't worry about that. And I was like, come on, nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to do anything. And I was like, well, wait a second. Maybe I'm the one who's got things wrong. Maybe I'm the one who needs to slow down. And then you kind of, you start slowing down. You start slowing down. And then you're like, at one point, you find the magic and you're like, wait a second. Okay, there is a better balance. Okay, maybe there are things here that could speed up a little bit. could. But then on the vice versa, on our side, there are things that really need to just slow right down. That connection, that human connection, the family connection, we don't need to be all these cogs in a machine going and going and going and going. And, it's okay to have a 2-hour lunch.
Or 3.
Or just don't even go back to work in the afternoon. It's okay. It's okay. It's annoying sometimes because you want to get things done, but then you embrace it. So pack your bags. It's not as scary as you're maybe building it up to be. And it's the quality of life here. The quality of life is honestly, I don't think you guys could even imagine it without experiencing it.
So that's a nice way to pivot and replug coming to Portugal for the Blacks to Global 5-year anniversary yacht party. It's going to be October 23rd. Amylee has already been on the yacht because you were on my birthday yacht. And then you probably already seen Amylee in the Reuters piece.
Yes. Oh yeah.
We were riding in tuk-tuk. I was like, I know they've seen you somewhere else.
There it was.
Right. Yeah. In the tuk-tuk.
And that's a connection because Tony was my friend, and then you and I had that conversation. We brought that all together.
Would not have happened.
Nope.
Without that. So that's why local friendships are the way to, I wouldn't say fast track, but it's a cheat code. It's definitely a cheat code because in a lot of countries you have like hidden markets and just things that culturally you're or nuances that you're not going to be able to permeate if you stay in the expat bubble, if you stay on the surface level. Some people are okay with that. And that's not to say, that is bad for them, but there are things that you miss, and that it can literally alter your experience. The things that I've been able to do here, whether it be, the tuk-tuk ride, the yacht, the wine takeover, these came from forming local relationships. And so that's why I feel like for many of you, when you're going out there, of course you have to, link up with different providers. You'll have your, accountability friends and things like that. But definitely challenge yourself to take it a step further, regardless of whether or not the culture that you're moving to or country that you're moving to is a language that you don't speak. Whether you speak it or not, it's irrelevant. It's really just, ingratiating yourself with locals is going to be a game changer.
Yeah, Jackie had a question about that.
Yeah, weather in October.
That's good. It's one of the better months. September, October is quite comfortable.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more cooler
Doesn't
at
get
night,
rainy.
but it's not rainy.
Ooh.
Rainy season technically starts in November. However, we have discussed that in the last 8 years, I have seen crazy rainy November move to insanely rainy March. So last 2-3 years in a row, March has been miserable. So things are moving. The hardest months here historically have always been January, February, and now March. But like I said, last year for Carnival in Nazaré, both times I've gone out with my women's group. So just imagine there's about 400 women that all dress up in the same costume. And then we literally start drinking at around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and we go on parades through the entire day. Last year, my group was Samurais. The year before, we were all Cleopatras. It has been hot and sunny randomly in February for those days. And then you came back from March, so you understand my warning now about rainy March.
I came back from Thailand and Vietnam to monsoon season in Lisboa, and so I was like, no, next year I will be in Japan. I am already setting that into motion because I am not doing that again.
This year, January, friends from mine came in from Vancouver, and we were on the beach. New Year's Day was warm. Things are randomly shifting a little bit. So.
It's crazy. I like and we'll probably go after this, but your phone will say, oh, memories.
Yeah.
And so Tadasi sent me a message a couple of weeks ago, and it was when we were still having that cold weather. It was like that last year, we were on the beach. And I was like, yo, we literally were at a beach club. And I remember June got in the water, and I'm like, what is it cold?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. BJ said March. March is ridiculous.
This March was not like it was not fun.
I do not recommend.
So needless to say, October.
Yeah.
September, October are usually the better months, anyways, because a lot of the tourism also goes. It becomes lower season. So.
Definitely come on. If you're thinking about getting a ticket to the yacht party, I'm going to put it back up on there. I'm trying to think. Let me just double check one thing. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was right. Yeah. Okay. And then let me send you this link too. All right. I'm like, I'm not 100% sure about that one. Go to their website. Check out Blacks of Global. Oh,
Celebrate your birthday too.
Yes. Come on.
It was a lot of fun.
It was.
It was so much fun.
Yes.
So much fun.
Yes.
The boat is amazing. The crew was amazing. It was a really It was really great.
I'm already working
Great
on
party.
this playlist for this one because I'm mixing it up.
Nice.
Mixing it up. We're doing some line dancing.
Yeah.
So
Line dance.
boots on the ground.
Love it. Love
Yes.
it.
So,
Yeah.
you know, start practicing, y'all. All right. So we're gonna call it because we're gonna try and get to bed before midnight. Appreciate y'all for hanging out. Thank you for the great questions for Amylee. Like I said, I'll be back next week, same back time. The nose is getting better, so hopefully, maybe next week, y'all have the final episode of the Black to Global podcast for season 7. I will start recording season 8 in the fall with more stories. But in the meantime, be safe, be well, and I will see y'all later. Ciao, ciao.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.